This is Julian Berry interviewing my mother, Sally Berry, on April the 24th for my fulfillment of a class requirement in social work with elders. My mother, Sally Berry, has voluntarily agreed to allow our interview and its audio video for the purposes of my class requirement. This interview is conducted on April the 24th, 2024 on a Wednesday at 7:40 p.m. I have the liberty to make the suggested interview questions my own while still getting content that I need for this assignment. Mother, I have a list of questions I'd like to explore with you, beginning with you stating your name, your date of birth, and your place of birth.
Okay. My name is Sally Berry. My date of birth is April 4th, 1957, and my place of birth is Pineville, Louisiana.
All right, cool deal. So let's start with this. What was your mother's name, her place of birth, and what occupation did she have?
My mother's name was Dorothy Freeman McGinnis, and her place of birth was Longleaf, Louisiana, which was a rural country town in this part of Louisiana. And she was a blue-collar worker. She was a laborer.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Alexandria, Louisiana, a part of Alexandria called Samtown.
All right. And describe the house that you lived in when you grew up.
The house that I lived in was it was a wood house. I actually lived in two houses because I lived with my grandmother, which was a wood house, and right on the side of her was a Jim Walter home that my mother and my stepfather had built. And so I spent some time over with my mother, and then sometimes I would be over with my grandmother. So there were two houses adjacent to one another that I lived in.
Okay. So describe what type of foods y'all ate.
Okay. We ate some good food because my grandmother used to cook every Sunday. She would cook cabbage, sweet potatoes, either a chocolate cake or a banana pudding, and smothered chicken, and skillet cornbread. And to this day, I have an issue eating banana pudding.
Wow, I didn't know you had an issue eating banana pudding.
Yeah, when I eat banana pudding, I don't want any bananas in it.
Yeah.
Not the textured pudding. Just
Yeah.
the smooth pudding. Because not that it wasn't good, but we used to have it every Sunday.
Right.
So.
I've learned me something. Okay. Next, describe what type of games y'all used to play when you were children.
Oh, when we were children, we used to play Little Sally Walker, Sitting in the Saucer, Weeping and Crying Over Half a Glass of Water. We used to play London Bridge is Falling Down. We used to play jump rope because we would make ropes with clover flowers. In the patch of clovers, you would have these little flowers, and so we would tie the flowers together and jump rope with the flowers.
Oh, wow.
And then we would play softball, and then we would play Simon Says, and games, hide and go seek, and things like that.
Okay.
Those are the games.
Okay, cool deal. So question, and this goes under family activities. What sort of things, did y'all used to celebrate back in the day? Was it just the normal holidays, or did y'all have anything extra that y'all used to do?
Pretty much the normal holidays. Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, those were the biggies that we would celebrate.
Okay. So describe a typical, let's say, Christmas or Thanksgiving back then.
Okay. Well, Christmas back then, my mother made sure that we believed in Santa Claus up until the point where we didn't.
Okay.
So while we had that belief, she would always have um, good things under the tree when we woke up.
Yeah.
And my sister and I, before Christmas came, we would sit on the top of the couch and watch Santa Claus on television, look through his spyglass, and we would wait for him to call our name. Because if he called our name, that would just, we were scared of him, but we loved him at the same time.
Yeah.
So a typical Christmas would be filled with gifts and excitement and happiness and fun, bicycles.
Wow.
And that's when my grandmother made the good old fruit cake.
Yeah.
So it would also be filled with good food. So it was food and fun and just a whole lot of joy and family. We
Wow.
loved Christmas.
That is amazing. Okay. Well, let me ask this. What were the family's attitudes towards alcohol, and what were the family's attitude towards smoking?
Smoking and alcohol were two things that they forbade. They
Okay.
forbade. Back in the day, now, they would smoke,
Yeah.
but nobody drank.
Mm-hmm.
Because smoking was like a common thing.
Yeah.
However, they didn't want us to touch the cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, everybody quit smoking them anyway.
Okay.
But alcohol was never a thing in our household. Nobody drank.
Okay. So what sort of things was my grandmother, Mama Dorothy, your
Mhm.
mother, what were like some of her non-negotiables? Like what are a couple of things she was strict about?
Well, non-negotiables were drinking.
Yeah.
That was one of the things. Getting home before the street lights came on. That was another thing. Having inappropriateness with boys. That was another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I'm thinking of some more non-negotiables because we had quite a few.
Okay.
Going to school, getting an education,
Yeah.
that was a non-negotiable. Going to church on Sundays or Saturdays or Wednesdays, whenever church was, we were expected to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So that leads me into my next question.
okay.
And this comes straight of our textbook. And it says one of the things about this says in our textbook, it states that the church is a big part of the African American culture, the black culture in America. Why do you think that is?
Because the church was an acceptable culture for slaves.
Mm-hmm.
There were very few things that were acceptable back in those days. But one of the things that was acceptable was for the slaves to gather on Sundays and have church. Even though their Bibles were condensed to what people wanted them to read,
Mm-hmm.
they could gather and have church on Sundays. And so that particular strong institution has been passed down through generations because it was acceptable and it was, life-giving.
Mm-hmm.
It was freedom.
Yeah.
It was liberty. All those things happened in the church for us as black people when they couldn't happen anyplace else.
Yeah.
They could always happen in the church.
Okay. Next question. Where did you go to junior high school? Was it junior high or middle school? What was it back then?
It was junior high school.
So 7th and 8th grade.
I went to Lincoln Road Junior High School.
Okay. Do you remember how many classes you had there?
I had about, I know I had math, English, social studies, civics. Um, so I had about from 4 to 5 different classes, and PE.
And PE.
Mhm.
I can't forget about PE.
Right.
Um, and about how many children were in your classroom? Do you remember?
Yeah, from about 25 to 30.
Okay. And did you have a favorite teacher?
Let me see. Back in, we're still talking about junior high school? Or just
Mm-hmm.
junior high school, I think my favorite teacher was, I'm trying to think. Now I'm thinking that was elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
In junior high school, my favorite teacher had to have been Miss Gorey.
Miss Corey.
Yeah.
Okay. So why would you say she was your favorite teacher?
Because she was fun. And the other thing was she taught PE, where we can let our hair down and stuff like that. It wasn't as strict as the other classes.
Okay.
So I liked her.
Since we have your favorite teacher, were there any teachers that you disliked?
Nah, not really.
Not really. Okay. What was the discipline like at school? How did they discipline y'all?
Well, those days, the principals were allowed to paddle you
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And the teachers were allowed to talk to you as if you were their own child.
Yeah.
And nobody got upset with you.
Mm-hmm.
Parents appreciated the discipline like that because sometimes when you did something wrong at school, you get disciplined not just by the teacher, but when the teacher told your parents, then you get disciplined again.
Right.
So the discipline was strict, and plus there was the fear of getting paddled. That was an acceptable thing back in the day. And so that was the discipline.
Well, how did you feel about that? That disciplinarian type that, you know.
Well, being that I was like, I don't know, good.
Yeah.
So I didn't worry about it.
A goody
too much.
two shoes.
Yeah, kind of sort of like
Yeah.
that. And the people who I associated with were as
Yeah.
well. Except there were outliers in every group, but for the
Yeah.
most part, we were all doing what we were supposed to do. So I didn't worry too much about the discipline.
Okay. And what high school did you go to?
I went to Peabody Magnet. It was Peabody. I'm trying to see if it was Magnet then, but it was Peabody Senior High School.
Okay. Well, what was your favorite class when you were in high school?
My favorite class had to have been English
And why was that?
because I love to talk. And when I talk, I want to talk where it's kind of grammatically kind of correct.
Right.
I like to talk, and then I like to write.
Mm.
And so those things, the foundations were gotten in English class.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I liked English from the elementary all the way through high school. Yeah, it's always been my favorite.
Okay. Okay. Next question. What was your first paid job?
My first paid job was as a sales associate at J.C. Penney.
Okay. And did you like it?
I did. I
Mhm.
liked it okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I liked it. Especially on the holidays, the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay. Did you have a good relationship with your coworkers? Did you work with some pretty decent people?
I did. I
Good.
did. Yes.
Okay. Another question. What do you like to do in your spare time?
I like to go to movies.
Yeah.
I like to go to restaurants. And so I was about to say I like to eat, but that goes along with restaurants. But mostly I like to go to movies, and I like the fellowship with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I like to do.
When you were younger, what are some of the things that you like to do? Like, what would you say was a good night out? Like, for instance, if you went to school all week and then the weekend is here, like, what would you do to let your hair down?
Well, mostly I would read. I wasn't really a club goer,
Yeah.
any of those things. Every once in a while we would go dancing and stuff like that. But mostly to let my hair down, I would just read, and reading would take me to a whole nother world. So that's what I would like to do.
Okay. Well, what would be one thing that you would say that you like, or one detail or one characteristic that people may not know about you?
Well, they may not know that I'm really introverted.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as I got older, I think I exuded more extrovert tendencies,
Yeah.
but I'm really an introvert. I have no problem spending time just with myself,
Okay.
doing things just by myself, and that may be surprising to some people.
All right. So another question that we had in our class, it's a topic, and it is called the strengths perspective. So as we get older in age, instead of focusing on our weaknesses, or not weaknesses, the things that we may not be as good at, or can't do as much anymore, we focus on the strong things. So it basically says, the definition, this focuses on what is strong in older adults' ability to rally personal and social assets to find solutions to problems he or she faces in the aging process. That basically just breaks down to say, you're focusing on what you can do, your strengths, versus what you can't. So how do you feel about that? Focusing on your strengths instead of weaknesses.
I think that's a good thing. You better focus on your strengths.
Yeah.
Because as we get older, physically we get weaker.
Right.
So our strengths have to become from inside, inner things, not so much as physical things, but things that maybe we can be, that we are wiser.
Right.
So we could advise young people as a result of some of our experiences, because some things we try to get them to avoid because we've been there and done that, and we know what happens if you do this, then that. So I said, giving advice on based on some of the outcomes of your own experiences, I think would be a foundational strength as we get older.
Right.
Older, in the Bible says that the older people are for counsel,
Right.
and the younger ones are for war.
Right.
So I would say as a counselor,
Okay.
that would be a strength.
And I noticed, that you quote the Bible very well, the verses. When you're reading the Bible, how long does it take you to memorize those verses? Do you try to memorize them, or is it the fact that you've read it so much they've just become ingrained in your subconscious and your spirit and your soul and all of that?
I think it's a little of both.
Okay.
Because I love reading the Bible stories.
Yeah.
And sometimes the stories become more ingrained than the verses.
Okay.
But sometimes if you read a verse and it's so strong, it's easy for you to memorize.
Yeah.
For example, I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me.
Mm-hmm.
Some things are just easy to remember.
Right.
And then some things you relate to the Bible stories as well. So it's a little of both. Is that what you're asking? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite Bible story?
I think one of my favorite Bible stories, simply because it's different. is when the donkey talked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a story in the Bible, and the main characters are Balaam and Balak.
Mhm.
Balak was the king, and Balaam was the prophet.
Mhm.
And Balak wanted Balaam to do something that was against God's will.
Mhm.
And so Balaam attempted to do it 3 times. And each time the donkey revolted and didn't do it.
Yeah.
And each time Balaam would hit the donkey. So the last time that Balaam hit the donkey said, "Why are you hitting me? Don't you see that angel standing there with a sword in his hand? If you pass by, he's going to strike both of us down." So that's one of my favorite. And then, of course, the other one is the story of Moses
Yeah.
leading the children of Israel out of Egypt when he parted the water.
Yeah.
That has to be something that you can only imagine.
Right.
And then you've seen movies with that. So that's a good Bible story. And of course, when the angel comes to Mary and tells her she's going to conceive without having been with a man.
Yeah.
Of course, our Messiah, Jesus. So that's always a beautiful story. The Christmas story is a beautiful story as well.
Right. So you have many.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, because I could go on, because I was about to say about Joseph and the Cosmic Color.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. You being born in 1957. It's now 2024. What would you say the biggest change in the world has been from your perspective from 1957 to 2024? And it may not, you don't have to, I guess, say the biggest one, but maybe a major one, you know?
Yeah, there was a time when the world just seemed so beautiful.
Yeah.
And everything just seemed nice and acceptable, but now there's so much division. So between 1957 to 2024, it's like it's been so convoluted.
Yeah.
The changes that you see, because I saw some beautiful things as we advanced and as the United States became a melting pot.
Right.
For people to come and reach their dreams. And now it seems like it's just so divisive.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that at the end of the day, I still believe there's a lot of good.
Yeah.
More good than bad.
And that's an interesting perspective, that you would say the world has become more divisive, and you grew up in parts of Jim Crow, correct?
I did.
Where there are whites only, blacks only, and segregation and all of that type of stuff. And it's just so interesting that it seems like the more integrated we became, the more divided, the more division, we have. It's just, and I think that in some aspects, the world has always been the world. I think with the advent of social media, it has sort of pulled back a lot of blinders.
Yeah.
And showing who people really are. And I think that social media has also made people be who they aren't as well, in order to look a certain way.
Yeah.
On social media too. So they also said, I heard, the more social we became with social media, the more individualized we became.
And yeah, and I think also that the more socialized we became, the more organizationalized we also became.
Yeah.
With the radicalization of all these people, with all these groups that had negative foundations and stuff like that, tapping into one another.
Right.
And then going back to the Jim Crow era, the way I feel about that is that was the racism we knew. That was that, and it's sad to say, but it was a racism of familiarity.
Yeah.
But as the years have gone by, it's just evolved into something more ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that was that. And go ahead.
So let me ask you a question. Your outlook on life, your personality, would you say it's positive?
Yeah, I've always been a person who saw the glass as half full.
Can you explain to me why that is, or why you think it is, or where that comes from?
I think it's because of my faith in God.
Okay.
I think it's totally because of my faith in God, because He is the foundation.
Right.
And with Him, my philosophy has always been, we have an endless hope, not a hopeless end. And that's always my philosophy as I hold on to my faith.
Yeah.
And it has to be, because I want to see my granddaughter now grow up in a world that's full of possibilities
Mm-hmm.
and opportunities,
Right.
and people who are loving and kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe, we can get back to that,
Oh yeah.
because I still believe there are good people out there.
There are.
And there are a lot of people who want to do the right thing.
Right.
And I think that it's the minority who do not, but the majority still want to do the right thing. And I'll give you an example. When we just had the eclipse,
Mm-hmm.
the eclipse, week before last.
Yep.
And you had all these people that came together and they witnessed it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was so happy and just on one accord, just for that one little thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the world can be on one accord for something else that's good.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I hold on to my hope.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. That was awesome. Well, I do appreciate your time and you allowing me to interview you. I think we got a great deal of insight accomplished today. I want to thank you for your time,
Okay.
for assisting me with my class project. Do you have any final comment or any statement you'd like to make before we end the video?
No, but it's been my pleasure to talk about these things and to assist you in this project. And I hope what I've said has really contributed to the success of it. So,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.